I thought I would again speak about some of the things which I think are very important in terms of current events. Because what's amazing is every week there's something significant and substantial that happens. It's just amazing to watch, And I just wanted to mention a couple of ideas which I don't think people are aware of, and so on, Just to mention something which I had spoken about quite a while back and so on. One of the key ideas of what's happening today, in other words, what determines what's happening today, is the fact that the Satan, as we approach closer and closer to the Messianic era, the Satan is losing his grip. Not his sanity, but his grip. In other words, what does that mean? That he's losing the ability to destroy the Jews. That's what he's doing. Kabbalistically, what that means is that we know that when the Jew sins, that whatever holiness would have come down to the Jew is taken by the Satan. And that's the relationship that we have going all the way back to Adam Rishon. Anyway, which I've mentioned many times and so on, So therefore the Satan has an enormous amount of what's called Kedusha, or power, or if you want to use the Kabbalistic terms, sparks of holiness. And that gives him the energy. His energy, of course, comes from the fact that he's mekatreg, he prosecutes. Without that, he's nothing. But when he prosecutes and he's victorious in judgment, he's then allowed to take whatever holiness the Jew would have gotten. And that's what empowers him to do many, many things. Anyway, but the interesting thing about it, which we know, is that as we approach the Messianic era, he slowly has to give back, because the Jews do go through however they do it, they proceed with what's called the tikkun process, which is the process of rectification. And a great deal of that process is to empty the Satan of all the holiness that he has, thereby disempowering him completely, and ultimately he dies. And then the Mashiach comes and so on, without getting into the entire process. And I had once mentioned, which is really very important, I had mentioned, how is it Obama became president of the United States? It was really incredible when you think about that. Because not only was he, black, which itself is okay, that in itself isn't the reason why he should be president, but the man was involved with terrorists, and we know that. He's basically a Muslim. That's really what he is. And he's really a very bad guy. It's obviously, megalomaniac and so on. Question is, how did he work? How did he become president? And I had mentioned what the underlying concept is quite a while back and so on. I'm going to mention it again because it's still going on. We don't realize that, but whatever empowered Obama to become president is still happening. What does that mean? And that's why it's important. I'd mentioned that when a general is fighting a war and he's losing, and let's assume he only has 1 week left of firepower, well, he's finished, really, in many ways. So there's really only 3 types of strategies that he can do to survive. The first one is called the big bluff. That means he will fire out of the 7 days of firepower, he will fire 6 days worth, thereby hoping to frighten the enemy, which is a bluff, of course, and they'll get so frightened by this display of enormous firepower that they'll just throw in the towel and say, hey, we give up. But let's assume it doesn't work, right? The general does that, 6 days, and it's an awesome display of weapons and so on, firepower. And let's assume that the other side doesn't give up. Well, he's got to resort to strategy number 2. Strategy number 2 is where he will send some of his people into the nation that's the enemy, hoping to dissolve or to in some way remove the resolve that enemy nation has even to fight. And that's where you had the United States during the Vietnam War, make love, not peace, this kind of stuff, And a lot of people were against the war. They said enough is enough. And it's repeated many times. So therefore, sometimes a nation will say, hey, we had enough, right? So let's stop the war. So this general who is losing, he tries to institute that strategy. And let's assume he sends guys in to try to break the resolve of the fighting nation. And, he tries and so on. And let's assume that doesn't work. Doesn't work. So there's only one more strategy that he has left. What is that? He's got to contact an ally and say, hey, I ran out of firepower. Basically, it's all over. Do me a favor, send me more troops and send me more weapons, more firepower, ammunition, and that's what he needs from the ally. If he doesn't get it, he's finished. The Sultan is really in the same position. That's the best really way to understand that. Where the Sultan is losing all his firepower. What is his firepower? That which preserves him, right? And that is the whole concept of the sparks of holiness, the Kedusha that he's robbed, so to speak, from the Jews because of their sins, you see. And as he's losing it, obviously his power is diminishing, and it's only a matter of time until he's finished. So what he hopes, and the only way he can get it back, if he can get the Jews to sin, because that's his power, he gets it, right? They sin, he prosecutes them in heaven because he's the heavenly DA, right? And if they lose, of course, then he is yoinek, nourishes from their kedusha that he was able to get through justice. So what does he do? He prosecutes enough where he accuses the Jewish people and so on. Now, I'm not going into what the Rebbeinu Shalom, what's his part in this? He sees what's going on. I'm putting that aside. I'm strictly talking about the Sultan himself. So the first thing that the Sultan did was what's called the big bluff, as I mentioned. He tries to fire, 6 days of firepower, right? And what the manifestation or expression of that was by the Sultan is the Holocaust. Now, the Holocaust has many fundamental reasons, which I'm not going into, but this is a very important one of them. Is that what the Sultan was able to do is convince every nation to in some way wage war against the Jews. Now, war doesn't mean war. There are many ways to contribute to the destruction of the Jews. You can either kill them directly, you can support the nation that does kill them, you collaborate with them, and then there's the people that participate by giving them more armaments. There are many ways to be guilty of culpability in killing the Jews. So what the Sultan did in World War II, he got an enormous amount of the world to try to destroy the Jew. And therefore, it was just awesome display of firepower, which means basically the non-Jews, the Goyim, to kill the Jews and so on, whether it be the Ukrainians, of course the Nazis in Machshemam, and Hitler in Machshemai, and so on, all the other nations, that really contributed heavily to the destruction of the Jews. And that includes, of course, Poland, it includes France, all these guys, including the US with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who refused entry at all, and so on. They all are guilty of in some way, and God will judge them, and He does judge them. Exactly to what measure they are guilty. So that's the big bluff, where the Sultan was able to do that, kill the Jews. Now, we know killing the Jews doesn't get him anything, so then what's the point? And the answer is because that type of event would destroy a person's emunah, faith. Because a guy would say, what is this? We're the children of God, we're the people that He chose to represent Him, right? And to further the tikkun process. Where is He? How could He allow this to happen? So what they would do is just throw away their faith. And therefore they would sin, and if they would sin, He would then be obviously in a position to take what they have, their kedusha, their holiness, and so on. So that's really one of the main objectives is the Holocaust, to destroy the faith of the Jewish people, thereby allowing them to sin, and as a result of that, He can then restore the power that He had. There are a lot of other ideas going on, but I'm just focusing now on the satanic strategy. However, it didn't work. in some ways it did work. And there were many people that gave up Judaism as a result, But by and large, when you take a look, it didn't work as good as the Sultan intended, and therefore he's stuck with the old problem that he's losing food, in order to survive. So therefore the Sultan has to go into the second process. And what is that? And that is called, not the Great Bluff, but it's called to break the resolution, the resolve of the nation. And who are they? The Erev Rav. The Erev Rav, I once gave a whole share on that, what the Erev Rav really is. Those are Jews that have replaced the uniqueness of Jews as the observers of the Torah, that the bond between the Jew and God has nothing to do with Torah. Jews are like every other nation, but they have their own culture and so on, but it has nothing to do with Torah. These are the leaders. These are the leaders of these movements: Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, the Maskilim, Zionists, and all this. They're not the secular Zionists, not the religious Zionists, but the secular Zionists. These are the Erev Rav, or the soldiers of the Sultan, the Jews. And it's terrible what they are. And what they did, of course, by building the state of Israel, they took so many Jews and destroyed the religion. The Yemenites, there's so many stories of what went on in the beginning of the state, how these people would want to curry favor with the British, and then they were hoping that they would be the government. Meanwhile, they made sure that all the religious, they would try to convert all the religious into, of course, non-observant Jews, so therefore they would not be pushed out of power. There's a lot of this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, in many ways, they destroyed the religion called Judaism of the Jewish people. Therefore, by breaking the resolve of religious Jews, what would happen, right? The resolve was broken, and they, of course, would abandon Judaism, sin, and then the Sultan again can eat. It's always the objective of the Sultan is to destroy the religion, so they sin, and when they sin, he can then prosecute and then take their holiness because of that. So therefore, the founding of the state of Israel by the people that were Erev Rav, people who are enemies of the Torah, right? He was able to break the resolve of thousands and thousands of Jews by putting them in camps that were completely irreligious. There's so much stuff written on this and so on. However, when you look at it, that didn't work either, really. I mean, it worked nicely for him. You go around Israel today, and there's so many Jews, unfortunately, that violate. There's so many commandments of the Torah and so on. And the government, no matter what they say, fundamentally is trying to destroy the Judaism of the Jews. They don't mind if you're a little traditional, but it's not it shouldn't get out of hand. We actually do all the mitzvahs and so on, and so on and so forth. It's all hypocrisy and, all subterfuge and so on, But in any case, it didn't really work. So therefore, the Sultan, what he has to do is he needs more firepower. And both of these previous strategies are not working. So what does he do, right? There's only one, so the Sultan is the only one who has this contest, basically, between him and the Jews. They're both vying for the same unbelievable force of God. To be yonik, to be able to nourish and so on, But there is no other nation that can do that. All nations of the world derive what they have, what's called their shefa, from the Sultan. That's how they do it and so on. Unless people become Jewish, it's a different story. But it's interesting, there's only one other nation that derives their power straight from God. They don't go to the Sultan for any kind of force and so on. Who's that? Those are the Arabs, Ishmael. Because Avraham Avinu said, Lu Yishmael yichyu lefanecha alavai, it should be that Yishmael, his son, should live before you. What he really was saying, of course, is that let them live before you, let them derive their tremendous energies, spiritual and divine energies, from you directly and not from the Sultan. And God said, I have listened to what you said. Okay, without going into, why would Avram do that and so on. So it comes out that Yishmael is able to derive energy, spiritual energy or force from God directly. That's what it comes out. So they're the only other nation besides Jews that can do that. You see, and you see that because that's why their name is Yishmael. Okay, Yishmael means God hears, means that they have the name God in them because they can derive that energy straight from the Satan. You see, and they're the only other nation. So therefore, now and that accounts for certain phenomena which we see. That is why Christianity wants to, what's called in Yiddish, shmad a Jew. They want to try to take a Jew and convert him to Christianity. Why? Because the only way, the angel, of course, well, Christianity ultimately derives from Esav. You have Esav in the Torah, who became Edom. Edom became Rome. Rome became Christianity. And we see that. That's the heir of Rome, is Christianity and so on, you know. And Christianity, of course, is Western civilization. That's who Esav is today. But in any case, the major idea is that the non-Jews, the Christian nations, and the angel of Esav, of course, is the Satan, as we know from the Torah and so on, you know. So in many ways, even though they don't realize that, the guiding angel or the ministering angel is the Satan, even though that's the last thing they would ever believe, right? The Satan is our angel? Are you kidding? But they don't realize that's exactly who their angel is, and that's why they've been slaughtering Jews for 2,000 years. I mean, how do they explain that? How do they explain that incredible murder and viciousness and slaughter of the Jews for 2,000 years? Okay, it's just beyond. In any case, so therefore the Satan, what he does is he goes there and so it explains why the Arabs are not interested in converting the Jews. Really, why? Because they don't need the energy of the Jews. Their angel is not the Satan, right? They don't need that energy of the Jews. You know, what they want is the Jews should admit that the Arabs or the Muslims are superior to the Jews. But they don't necessarily need the Jew to convert. I mean, it's nice, but Christians want conversion, you see, and the Arabs or Muslims want the Jews to recognize that they are superior to the Jews. They want, and so on. In any case, why? Because they don't need the energy of the Jew when he converts and he sins. They don't need that. They have their own they get it straight from God. You see, and that's a very important reason why they're not into really conversions. But anyway, this is what they're able to do that, and so on. I mean, the one who says this is the Maharami Prague, who brings out this point that Abraham was successful in getting Yishmael, his son, to be yonik, to take his tremendous power straight from God. And of course there are conditions and so on, you know. So therefore, as such, the Satan goes over to the angel of Yishmael. He says, listen, you know, I'm dying here. I got to give all that stuff back. I need some of your stuff, you know. So what the angel of Yishmael said, and each nation has an angel that represents them in heaven and so on, you know. She said, look, for 2,000 years, your firstborn, which means your major guy, you know, has been what? Has been Christianity, you know, has been, and so on, you know. Hey, I want my guys to be now the front runner, not your guys, you see. So here's the deal, which he made with this Satan, you know. I want my guy, I want a Muslim to be head of the Christian world. That's incredible. Now the Satan, you know, is like I say, you know, he really can't say no because he needs that. So he was able to, which is astounding, the power of this Malach and so on, you know. He was able to get a Muslim, whether you think he's a Muslim or not, he is, to be the President of the United States. That's Obama. That's his power, because when you look at it, how in the world did this guy ever become president? It's incredible, you see. But he got it because that's the deal. So all of a sudden, Christian America is being led by a Muslim. Even though, you know, he went to church for years, but everybody knows he's really a Muslim. And that's why he bowed to the king of Saudi Arabia, because basically he was a Muslim for all those years and so on, you know. And therefore, as a result of that, you know, America became not became, but they certainly were represented by a Muslim. Imagine the President of the United States is a Muslim, which is incredible. And of course, what's the job of the Muslim President of the United States? To destroy a rival, which is to destroy America. Because America is fundamentally Christian. So therefore, what do you have to do? You got to destroy America, basically, because they're Christian, and allow the Arabs to dominate. And that explains who Obama is, that he was so, it's almost like a spokesman for the Muslims. In Egypt, when he went there and he said, we apologize, which is incredible to watch this guy, and why he was so terrible to America. I mean, the man lied openly to America. I'm not even talking about the deep state, that he's still actively trying to destroy America by trying to destroy Trump. I'll hold on with that, But he did. He was just absolutely terrible for America, with the economically and so on, In any case, okay, so 8 years goes by and he's gone, because 8 years is the term limit of a president. But wait a minute, but the deal still stands, you see. But here's the problem. It was the deal of what the Sultan made with the angel of Yishmael still stands. It was, we guys want to represent. We guys want to be top dog. You see? Over the Christians. You see? But the question is, okay, but how is he going to do it? Obama's gone, right? Can't come back, term limits and all that. So how does the deal continue? Because the Sultan needs the energy of Yishmael. And the deal is still on, you see. Meanwhile, what is the Sultan doing? The Sultan is using who to destroy America. Why does the Sultan want to destroy America? Because the problem is, as the Sultan loses more and more energy, you see, and he's not able to prosecute Jews as well as he used to, he becomes more and more desperate, you see. Now, but what's interesting is he's also become weaker. The Sultan is dying, and he becomes weaker, even though we don't see it, you see. Now, he became so weak that he was unable to prevent half of Esav becoming good. Trump is a messianic figure, even though he doesn't know that, you see, And I said this years ago, and I predicted it and so on, that he would win, because Esav, in the end, has to do tshuva. He has to repent. You see, without going through all the material that I said before and so on, And in the end of time, he will repent. He will do tshuva. And the tshuva of Esav is two things. One, he will become a brother back to the Jewish people. You see, which means he will protect them. He will defend them. He will promote them. You see, protect them against Europe, the UN, and all the other nations that try to destroy the Jews, right? He will promote them, right? What does promotion mean? Allow them to do the tikkun and be good to them. So that's the very important job of what Esav does. He is now really a brother. Somebody told me something interesting, which is exactly right in line with what I'm saying. The Chabad house, unfortunately, in San Diego, where that crazy guy tried to kill, he killed a woman, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein. He spoke for the White House. So either before he spoke or after he spoke, so Trump came over to Rabbi Goldstein. Somebody told me, a Chabad guy actually, and he said to Rabbi Goldstein, he said, I love you like a brother. Really? Yeah. It's the exact language that I'm saying is the whole point of him becoming, doing tshuva, repenting and so on. And the second thing that he has to do, in other words, he's the Esav, the Toiv Sheba Esav, the good part of Esav, is that he has to say what Esav said to Yaakov, Yehi lecha sheloch, let that which is yours be yours. In other words, I admit that the blessings that Yitzchak gave you is yours, and I take away my envy, my jealousy, and my hatred, and so on. In other words, he's admitting that these things are appropriate for who? For Yaakov, and let that which is yours be yours. And that is why Jerusalem is yours, the embassy is back there, Israel is yours, right? The Golan is yours, Then he shuts out he takes away money from the UN, UNRWA, and so on. He throws the Palestinians out of Washington and so on, because ultimately what it means that what is yours. That's the tshuva of Esav. You see, now, so the Sultan is so weak that he can't stop that force that has allowed Trump to become president. That's his weakening. That's the last thing he wants. Why? Because the Sultan wants to destroy Trump. Because Trump is an ally of Israel. It's really what he is. We know that the reason why he's an ally is because he has become a brother. He's turned the biblical verse Ya'aved that Asa will persecute Israel to Ya'avoid, he will serve Israel, which I had mentioned a long time ago and so on. So therefore, he wants to destroy Trump. Why? Because the reason why Trump wants to make America great, or the reason why he has to make America great, because in order to establish Israel as the chief among the nations, needs the legitimatization of America. Because when America says, hey, we recognize something, who's going to stop them? Who can say a word against America? It's the most powerful nation in the world. You see, so when Trump said the Golan is yours, it's a fait accompli. That's what it is. And I don't care which nation says the opposite, it means nothing. Because America is the greatest nation in the world. And you see, so therefore, America becoming great means that Israel will become great. That's very important, because Esav, the brother of Yaakov, must avoid serve his brother. What does it mean to serve? To make him great. You see, so when Israel will then become more spiritual, which it will, then all the nations will recognize the greatness of Israel. And that's how you explain the rise of Israel amongst the nations. Because this is all messianic. And one of the key figures for that is Trump, you see. And therefore the Sultan doesn't want Trump to do this. He wants to destroy Israel, not make them great, you see. But the fact that he was not able to stop Trump from getting into power shows that he's much weaker. So you have to understand what it reflects on the Sultan, that the Sultan could not stop the election of Donald Trump. You see. And of course the Sultan bought into the fact that everybody was saying Trump can never become president, you see, but of course he lost. And I guarantee you the man was up 24/7, all night long, prosecuting the Jews, trying to stop Trump from becoming the president of the United States. And I might add, Mike Pence also, who's also an Ohev Yisrael, somebody who loves the Jewish people, you see. So that tells us a lot, that the Sultan is weak because he can't prevent the good from happening. It's interesting. But what about the deal? Right? So in any case, so what the Sultan is trying to do is get what? He's trying to get the evil of Esav, the Rasha of Esav, to destroy Trump. Because he still has a hold on half of America, the evil of Esav. And who are they? Of course, the liberals, the leftists, the progressive, right? The Democrats, right? The House. He now has the House, you see. And therefore all of them, I mean the fact that what he just said, that one of them said a word about the 600 missiles, which is incredible. Think about that. It's hard to believe. 6, 7, 5, whatever it is, right? You know, that is the hatred that the House has, and it's growing. That's the anti-Semitism, you see? So the Sultan still has what? He still has control over what's happening, you see? So now it's sort of like divided, where Trump is the president, and these guys are still trying to take out the Jewish people. But what about the deal? The deal is that Yishmael wants to assume a superiority, right? So therefore, he's got enough power left to get 2 Muslim women into the house, Omar and Talib. You see, what are they doing in the house? Which is, it sounds, the first 2 Muslims that became part of the house. Not only are they part of the house, but guess what? The house protects them, right? Why is the house cowering to these 2 women? And they are increasing the amount of anti-Semitism. The house says nothing, doesn't condemn them directly, you see, and anti-Semitism is rising. So that's part of the deal that the Sultan made with Yishmael. right, that we still have some Yishmael, Islam, Muslims in the house, but more than that, they actually will assume a tremendous position where the house will follow them. See? And it's important. So therefore the Sultan is now, employing three. He's got Yishmael in the house, these two Muslim women, of which is what? Leading the house in terms of the anti-Semitism. And that's why. You see? He couldn't do it with Obama, because that's over. But he's strong enough to get these women into the house, and therefore that's his deal with the Sultan. Then he's got the Erev Rav also trying to destroy Trump, right? And who's that? Guys like Adam Schiff, right? Chuck Schumer, Jerry Nadler. These guys are all Jews. These guys are all Erev Rav. You see? So he's got them trying to destroy the Trump. Because remember, the danger of Trump is that he assists the Jews. And that's what the Sultan cares about. And so on, And then, of course, he's got the Rasha Esav. He's got the evil people of Esav, right? Also trying to destroy Trump. So what we're witnessing really is a total onslaught of Trump to destroy him. And we know that it's just beyond belief. It's never happened before. Everybody realized it's the mania. It's a psychotic mania to destroy the man. And they couldn't care less how. And of course, together with the media, they're trying to do that. But the reason for that is because what's behind all of this is the Sultan. Because he must destroy Trump. Because Trump is the most dangerous man. And then in comes a guy like Barr, who's really going to destroy the Democrats when he uncovers the incredible scandal and fraud of how they started this entire investigation against Trump. It looks like we have to wait till 2020, when Trump will win and really destroy that party and so on with all these incriminations that will come out. But meanwhile, we now understand what is happening. We are looking at a desperate attempt of the Sultan to destroy Trump, because Trump is the most dangerous man in the world other than the Jews, because he wants to aid and abet the Jewish people to rise and ultimately to introduce the entire Messianic process.
You're predicting he's going to win 2020?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yes. You have to remember one thing. The only vote that counts is God's. Every vote in the United States is irrelevant. The Bansham said, I want Trump to be president, and he became president. There's no force in the universe that can oppose the will of God. And Trump being president is part of the Messianic process, which God is not allowed to abandon, and it doesn't make a difference. Hillary, any of these people cannot stop that. And ultimately he will win, and the Democratic Party will be terribly damaged because of what they're doing. You see,
doesn't deserve it.
It's not a matter of deserving it, because in the end of time there's a thing called Be'itoi. God will bring the Mashiach no matter what. What, ready or not, and we are now Be'itoi. The Jews have gone through 2,000 years of incredible suffering, and we know that there are three methods of tikkun: mitzvahs, tshuva, and yisurim, commandments, repentance, and suffering. The Jews have suffered for 2,000 years, and it's really, they are basically almost finished with the measure of suffering, and therefore, that's why Trump is president. Esav does not do tshuva until the end. And since he is totally for Israel, he's probably the greatest president in history to be for the Jews. What he's done is beyond belief. He's not even really asked. I mean, he didn't. Who asked him to do the Golan? A couple of people said, by the way, why not recognize the Golan? He did it because there's something in him that loves the Jews. And it's not just because of Ivanka, there's just something in him that's an Ohev Yisrael. And he's like incredible.
He's tightening the vice on Iran.
Yeah,
More and more.
well, that itself is one of the biggest things. Israel doesn't even have to worry about Iran because he's destroying Iran. Now that he took away the exceptions, from buying oil from Iran, they're finished. They have nobody to sell oil. They cannot support their economy, and ultimately, Iran will become a third world, really third world.
Then terrorism talks, they're the primary supporters of terrorism.
Of course, yeah. But it's more than that, because in the end of time, the Medrash says that Iran is the last war with the Jews, and he's destroying Iran, disabling Iran from even being that. So that's clearly messianic. God is not even allowing that to happen. So therefore, he's destroying Iran, which is a terrible event that Iran is going through. Hopefully the people rise against the mullahs, because the mullahs are destroying Iran. It's amazing to watch. Persians are smart people. They're bright guys. They're very, they're sophisticated, they're civilized. They have a civilization that goes back thousands of years. They were the greatest nation on earth for 1,000 years, for a long time, The only one who could put a stop to them was Alexander, and he just barely did it, and so on, Imagine what Iran could be if you got rid of the mullahs. They'd be one of the greatest nations on earth, in terms of business, economy, what I'm saying? What do they need this for? It's unbelievable how evil can destroy such a simple, logical understanding of what it is to be prosperous. The same thing with Hamas. If they ever said, okay, forget about it, let's now work with Israel. Israel is begging them. We want to give you money, we want to build you up, and they just refuse. It's amazing to watch what evil can do to a nation, and so on, But like I say, Trump is doing it, defending Israel, and so on. And this is what is happening now in the United States. It's a full war to destroy Trump, because Trump is the greatest enemy of the Sultan now, because he is chosen to defend, protect, and promote the Jewish people. It's really what it's all about, and so on, So I wanted to throw that in terms of the two Muslims explain why that is still there in the house. That's part of the old deal. And the amazing thing is that the Sultan is so good, he's able to get the whole house to run after these two women and do whatever they want, and so on, But anyway, that's really what's happening. Anyway,
North Korea is playing a role.
what was that?
Does the Rav have any insights on North Korea? Seems to be a big player. Does the Rav have any insights how they fit into this Sutton process here? I mean, causing a big headache to Trump, not cooperating.
He's got another meeting with them.
And they're for the race, the North Koreans, like they're from...
I want to tell you something. All of this is a bluff. North Korea's not going to do anything to America. They're not crazy. Or maybe they are. You know what I'm saying? America can flatten that country in 15 minutes. He knows that. You can't win a war against America. Even if he sent a missile to Minneapolis, and he took out, 400,000 people. I mean, God forbid, right? And so on. You can't win a war with America. America's 3,000 miles long, right? And then America would just take them out in 15 minutes. That's the end of the entire country called North Korea. So how do you win a war? You can inflict a harm, that's true. You can't win a war against the United States. It's impossible. So he knows that, and he doesn't want to die. He wants to be king, or whatever he is, you know what I'm saying? It's all a bluff. It's called posturing. That's all it is, because he wants to, let me rattle a little, maybe you guys will fall for it, and you'll take away the sanctions even before I take away my missiles, which of course he's never going to do, and so on. But all it is posturing. That's all it is. America's not worried about North Korea.
He has artillery cannons that could reach Seoul, a lot of them. He could bomb Seoul and just destroy it. Without atomic weapons. He got artillery cannons.
That's not the issue. That's not the issue what he could do. Of course he can inflict serious harm. That's not the issue. The issue is if he does, his whole country is wiped off the map. And that's what he doesn't want. I mean, he's not willing to do that. It's okay. He doesn't care. Look, he's a murderer. He doesn't care if 500,000 people die. But he does care if Kim Jong-un dies. You see, and that's the issue. He's not going to do anything. What's the difference what he can do? Because he's dead. Trump will wipe him off the map. It's obvious what Trump will do. He says he's going to do it to Iran. What he said, threatened Iran. You guys say this, even when Iran said, you guys say this again, you guys have no idea what we're going to do to you. And Iran has 80 million people. What does they have, 23 million people? It's a joke. So I don't worry about North Korea. It's nonsense. He's not going to kill anybody, even if he could, because he's dead. What's he going to gain when he's dead? What is he? He's not into the ideals. Iran is into the ideals. He's into being a dictator. It's all nonsense.
They saw what Trump did bombing ISIS. They bombed them.
Yeah.
Like you're unmerciful.
Yeah, of course.
to
You
the
can't.
United
You
States.
can't play around with America. America has awesome firepower. We can't even imagine what these guys can do. You know what I'm saying? And he knows that, Kim Jong-un. So I wouldn't worry. It's all posturing. That's all it is. So he can get them to say, listen, give in to us. Take away the sanctions, before we even allow or stop, the, what do you call it, the things that make uranium or whatever. Centrifuges, yeah. It's all it is. It's just posturing. Does it sound like Trump is afraid? It laughs at the whole thing. It's like a flea threatening a person. That's all it is. North Korea's a flea.
Discomfort.
What?
There's discomfort.
What's a discomfort? He's not going to do anything, I guarantee you. All he can do is posture. That's it. And they know that.
The Democrats use this. They say, look, listen to this guy. And
They use it only, yeah, of course, because they're interested only in destroying Trump. So they want to make him look bad and say, well, you got to worry about North Korea. If you're not doing anything, you're incompetent. That's all it allows them to destroy Trump. Beyond that, there's no meaning to any of this. It's almost comical, really. I say it's like a flea threatening an elephant.
It's a soap opera.
It's what is this? You worry about the flea? It's nothing.
Trump trying to
Anyway.
push Iran into like a possible war in the Middle East.
Well, Iran is interesting because Iran wants to wipe out Israel ideologically, which is worse, religiously, because they believe that the Imam will come when the world is destroyed, whatever. What? Well, Israel can take out Iran. Israel has nuclear weapons. I don't know how many they have. 50, 80? All you need is one. You don't have to destroy Iran. You destroy the infrastructure. And they go back to the cavemen. You take out all their dams. You destroy every government building, right? You destroy everything, but you leave the people intact. So what? They know that. What does it take to...
Humanitarian aid.
What?
And then provide humanitarian aid.
Then provide them aid, yeah.
We recently sent a carrier task force
Yeah.
to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, because they threatened to block the Hormuz Strait. But it's a joke. If they ever block that strait, Trump would do. It's war, not just by Trump, because 2/3 of the world's oil go through that strait. Iran would be finished in a week, dead. Nobody's going to tolerate this nothing nation from doing this kind of damage to the world economy. The world will only tolerate a certain amount of abuse, but even they will retaliate. And Trump certainly will kill them. That one aircraft, you don't realize what an aircraft carrier can do. We have, what?
It's a whole
Yes,
task
yes,
force.
Exactly, he's got the whole group, right? Yeah, we don't realize how many nuclear weapons are on that boat, and we don't realize the accuracy of those missiles, whatever they are, the Tomahawk missile, cruise missiles, and so on. These things can target, I think, within 10 feet or something like that. All you need is to send that you can nuke Tehran, and that's the end of Iran.
He sent 4 52s over there, and that's what carries.
You can't start up with America. It's the whole thing is nonsense, and Iran knows that. All they can do is threaten, rattle their saber, but it means nothing because everybody knows it means nothing. Like I say, it's a classic flea against an elephant. It's really what it is. Don't worry, God is not going to let Iran do anything. All they can do is threaten, but that's it. Both the United States, independently of the United States, can wipe out Iran, and the same thing with Israel. Israel can wipe out Iran. If it's an existential threat, Iran is gone. Why do you think the biggest proof of this is Iran has done nothing? How many times have they entered Syria and wiped out Iranian places and so on? Does Iran do anything? You have any idea what kind of loss of face that is for Iran to the whole world? That a little pipsqueak country like Israel can go in and wipe out all their installations without any retaliation. Why? Because they don't want to start a war with Israel. What are they going to gain?
Neither does Russia. They tell Russia, you keep your planes down, we're coming over.
No, Russia's different.
They got an agreement?
Russia's different. That's because Putin likes Jews. Putin is not going to war with Israel. First of all, there's, 500,000 Russians, and he holds that they're his citizens. He's going to wipe out his own guys, and he likes Jews. He will not do anything. That's why Russia stands back and allows Israel to do whatever it wants. Because fundamentally, he likes Jews. Sometimes it comes to a conflict because he's got to worry about the interests of his own country. Fine. But basically, he really likes Jews, and he understands their need to defend themselves. In fact, he wants Syria, he wants Iran out of Syria because he wants Syria to himself. It is such a mass of conflicting interests that it's really, it's just, if it wasn't so threatening, it would be comical. It's what it is, So don't worry about all of this. All of this is ridiculous, and so on. But it's tragic, nonetheless, Say, 700 missiles in Israel. It's beyond belief. And obviously, the big thing is, of course, Netanyahu. He's not doing a thing. Nothing, and they're laughing their heads off that they can bomb Israel, kill Israelis, send 1.2 million people into the bunkers. You believe this? 150 critically wounded or whatever, and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, Netanyahu gives them everything. They're laughing their heads off. You should know. He will have to answer for what he's doing.
What should Israel do with Gaza?
What they should have done. What they should have done is long over. There's a certain amount you can tolerate from a nation. You try diplomacy, you try this, bribery, this and that, But after a while, when they fire missiles which kill people, then everything is over what they could have done. What they really should do is go in and wipe out every Hamas completely. Wipe them out, totally. And then force the Gazans to vote. Okay. Vote, you put in a new government. That's all, And that's it. It's like what in the olden days, if somebody would commit some action, they'd wipe out every man, woman, and child. I'm not saying what they should do this, but they should wipe Hamas off the map. And then tell the Gazans, okay, we will help you set up an election, vote a new government, and that's the end of it. Either that or give Abbas, Hamas, or Gaza, one or the other, and so on. And that's all they should do, And now's the time to do it because Trump will stand behind them. Trump said, of course they have to defend themselves. It's nonsense. So once they have Trump behind them, then no nation will rear its head. Yeah, they'll make a lot of noise, but who cares? This is existential. This is no longer, they're not nice to us anymore. No, they are killing Jews. In fact, ultimately, Netanyahu is a Messiah Ritzicha. He has all the blood on his hands because, he's the one who can do anything. He's the prime minister. He still is, And the fact that he is allowing Hamas to kill Jews and put the whole country under a terrible terror watch is inexcusable. I don't care what the reason is. A country cannot allow that to happen to its citizens. That is the first and greatest responsibility that the government has toward its citizens. Protect them. You know, you cannot have any other idea other than protect them. You see, and if you need to wipe them out, and then somehow get Gaza to vote a new government, either Abbas take over, or let them to vote a new government, and that's the end of it. You know, come what may. Too bad.
They elect the same type of government.
What was that?
Suppose they have this election and the same kind of government.
No, not if you wipe Hamas out. Who's left?
They can't even get along with the PLO.
You should know one thing, they hate Hamas. It's now reached the point where Hamas has no money for them anymore. You know, so they really hate Hamas. But it doesn't make a difference. Israel should say, hey, we'll give you a chance, you elect a new government, you know, have elections and so on and so forth. Let them be what's called an interim government to run the country while they're doing that. Let them have a new government and so on. And Israel will say, you know, will say to this new government, you know, if you're going to act like Hamas, guess what? You know, you're also fried. You're finished. No, Israel doesn't have to tolerate that. No, Israel's not worried about these people. So how in the world can they empower Hamas? Hamas is laughing at them. They can't believe their luck. You kill people. So the fact that he does not retaliate, because there are solutions, he aids and abets murder. That's what Netanyahu is. He's a murderer.
He bombed them.
What, he bombed them? He bombed a bunch of buildings. He killed 2 people. You don't understand. This requires an ultimate annihilation of Hamas. You don't kill, you don't bomb a bunch of buildings. Well, the buildings didn't bomb you, so what are you bombing buildings for? It's irrelevant to buildings. You kill the people. You know, I never saw a building bomb anybody. It's the people that bomb people, you know. You kill them. And it just, as far, you know, my opinion is that, you know, Netanyahu is a murderer. It's basically what he is. I don't care what his condolences are, which is the biggest joke of all. What do you mean condolences? To what? You know, you're the guy that's allowing murderers to kill Jews. So how do you know, what do you mean? What excuse do you have for not killing the murderers of Jews? Or it's incredible. How does this government? What's the legitimacy of this government even to rule when they have allowed Hamas to bomb periodically Israel? I mean, that's insanity. If that happened to America, if Canada would bomb 600 missiles, imagine that for New York, you know, New Jersey, whatever, right? What do you think Trump would do?
Bomb right back.
He'd wipe them out.
It'd be the 51st state.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you think he would he'd sit, he'd try to make a peace agreement with Canada? You know, there's this thing called deterrence. There's no deterrence. These guys think they can do it and get away with it. You know, what are they worried? That they're going to have to assume the burden of supporting Gaza? No. You put an interim government, which will tremendously aid the Muslims, because now for the first time, the money that everybody's giving them is going to go to them and not to building the tunnels. I mean, Hamas is the worst enemy of Gaza. It's a joke what they're doing to, you know, because they have this crazy ideology to destroy Israel. Therefore, Gaza has to suffer. All those Gazans have to suffer. It's incredible what goes on. You know, it's almost like they're all psychotics. You know, the UN, Europe, they don't want to look at the MS, what's really happening. Would they tolerate if 600 missiles came to them? What are you going to say? It's just what is happening is like an Alice in Wonderland scenario. You know, everything is psychotic. It's what it is. There's not one word of truth in the entire situation. You know, it's my opinion.
Say Ishmael was firing arrows at
yeah, and she threw him out.
Said,
Get out.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, of course. You don't allow this to continue. Well, what does it mean even? No country in the world would allow this. So how can they say to Israel, don't retaliate? Don't take out Hamas? What is wrong with that country, Israel? What is wrong with Netanyahu? What is wrong with that government? They're all murderers. Did anybody protest?
What about Eurovision?
What?
Eurovision. So,
Eurovision?
yeah,
They won the
they're supposed to
singing
have.
Big
contest.
TV show in Tel Aviv.
It's something that they would win, and it's such an odd person.
Who won?
a very odd video, very odd person. Somebody really out of the box. And
What is this? What does this have to do with real life? You know what I'm saying? People are dying. You know, and people are dying. I mean, it's incredible, you know? Would Netanyahu be so inept and so incompetent and so paralyzed if the missile hit his kid and killed him? Would he? You know? If they wiped out his family, what would he say? I'm going to make a peace with him?
When he gave away Gaza, the next day he was in a coma. Netanyahu's not going to get away with this.
No, of course not. Ultimately, the wheel turns against him, you know. But how does the Knesset allow him to get away with this? You know, I'm very proud of the fact that Gideon Saar, who I recommend, you know, he came out against Netanyahu. He says, "What are you doing? You're preventing what should have been a war. This is crazy." You know, where was the rest of the Knesset? You know, they don't want to rock the boat because they all need their chauffeured cars. It was shame. How do you allow a prime minister to do this? It's incredible when you think about that, you know.
What were the generals running against him? What were they going to do? Did they say they would?
Yeah, Gantz came out. Well, the opposition, of course, will come out, you know. But he, of course, he came out and said, "What are you doing? You can't do this. 600 missiles? And you do nothing? And you let Qatar give them billions of dollars and you allow everything to keep going as if nothing happened? It's beyond belief."
Yeah, but
Anyway,
he won, and God is the only vote that counts. How do you account for this?
that's a different story. That's a
Next
different.
week.
No, that's a different cheshbon. Why the Bansham allows this to happen? But that still that doesn't mean the whole thing is crazy. Still, you know, so on. Anyway, that's the you know what's happening, the latest, and so on and so forth, and yeah, and so on. But that's ultimately what is happening with Trump. Yeah.
The average person looks
Anyway.
at all that's going on, you're bewildered, you know. It's like,
Well, that's why I'm giving a shir, try to unbewilder you.
The Messianic process.
I mean, that's what it is. What?
It's rapid fire that people are blind. They don't even realize what's going on in front of them.
No.
These events
Who
are
does?
happening so quickly.
Correct. Nobody. Yeah. That's why I give this shir. You know, to they say unbewilder people. You know.
But
And
it's
Hezbollah got
trying
more
to
rockets
go
up
out.
To what?
I don't think 4/5 of
Egypt.
the
Yeah.
American people really know what's really going on. Like you're saying, only this year.
Yeah. It's only this year. Yeah. You know.
Hezbollah up north has more rockets than people in Gaza.
Yeah, but they're also dying because Iran can't give them any money. Nasrallah himself is dying. You know, they're all falling apart. That's the incredible thing. Why Netanyahu doesn't want to do anything? They're all falling apart anyway, because Iran they don't have the money. So this Nasrallah now knows he's got to hand around the hat, pass around the hat to get money. You know what I'm saying? You know, Iran was the big sponsor, and it's not sponsoring anymore. You know, and so on. Even the Iranian Guard is suffering. They're not getting the money because they have no money. And now, you know, now with this that they took away the exemptions, forget it. You know, Iran will collapse economically, and so on. You know, Israel needs a Trump. That's what it needs.
We should name a street after him in Israel.
They are. They can name a street, a village, everything. You know, sure. You know, yeah. I hold Trump should quit his job as president and become prime minister of Israel. You wouldn't believe what would happen on the next day.
Would he win the vote there?
Oh, he's got a 98% approval rating. In Israel, forget about America, you know. That's what he should do. Forget about America. You know, it's a lost cause. Just go to Israel, run for prime minister, run that country, and just set it straight. That's the solution to everything. You know, what can you say? Anyway. Okay. Anything else? That's the latest, you know, it's like, it's an ongoing soapbox. It's really what it is, you know.
Soap opera.
Oh yeah, it's incredible what happened.
Trump's name, Donald Trump, 424 from Shep and David.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I said that a
gonna
long time ago.
be- Yes. But Obama Hussein is also Mashiach 424. Same Mashiach Mendel, same exact number.
Which one?
Obama. Obama. Barack Obama.
Barack Obama is Gematria Mashiach.
Barack Hussein Obama is Gamash Mashiach also.
No, without the Hussein. Barack Obama is Gematria 358, which is Gematria Mashiach. And the reason for that is, well, I once gave a shir about that, but and the word Nachash is also Gematria Mashiach. So he's the Nachash instead of the Mashiach, you know.
Hillary
So,
Clinton
anyway.
is a Malikia, a woman in mullet, right? Which
Yeah.
describes her perfectly.
When you were over there, what's the mood of the Israelis? Are they confused also?
Israel has become a timid nation. They allow this injustice to continue. They're very timid. They don't do anything. What they really should do is rebel, throw over, get rid of Netanyahu, and put in somebody that will defend the lives of the Jews. That's really what they should do, but they don't.
Knocking baby. Someone like that.
No, I told you, you know, Trump. It's really what it is. You know, it's one thing if the economy is suffering. It's another thing if people are dying. It's a whole different scenario. People die because of this. And it could have been prevented. The fact that he didn't bomb Hamas before is what killed these people. So he allows the murderers to survive and to flourish. So the avla, the injustice that this man has done, Netanyahu, is that he didn't kill him years ago. That's why they still can kill people. So he has blood on his hands, you know.
How was he able to win the election?
How's what?
How was he able to win the election with all this?
That's a good question, because people are fooled. They're fooled by him in many ways, you know. They see that he's friends with Trump and all that, but they don't understand that he is incompetent, you know. People are dying. I mean, it's incredible. How many years has this been going on with Hamas? Years. First with Arafat, and now with Hamas. For years, you know. I mean, nobody wants a war, but this is ridiculous, you know. It's insane. Really is. Because like I say, the first responsibility of government is to protect its citizens from harm. When they don't do that, they have lost their legitimacy and their right to govern. Simple. Like you see in the Declaration of Independence. You know, they said, what do you call it, the King of England, he's lost his legitimacy. You know, they had a whole list of what he's done, the Declaration of Independence, you know. That the right of a government to rule is only if they stand the test of what the government is required to do. Once the government abandons its right, it has no more legitimacy to be a government. And it has to fall, you know, because ultimately a democracy means that the people rule. In other words, the government rules as a result of the pleasure of the people. That's really what it is, and that's basically what democracy is. You know, but if the government violates what it has to do, then it's over with. You get rid of it and finished.
Ultimately, Netanyahu is the heir of Rav. This is going to complicate the end of days. The heir of Rav here in America, with the house, with the Muslims, to deal with Ishmael. So that's a big problem in Eretz Israel. The heir of Rav there is a big. How am I going to get?
It's a problem anywhere they are, the Erev Rav. But the problem is not the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is nothing more than the army, basically, of the Satan. It's not the Erev Rav. The real problem is the sins of the Jews. That's the problem. Because when the Jews sin en masse, they empower the Satan. When the Satan is empowered, he calls out his troops. The greatest troops of the Satan is the Erev Rav. Go to the root of what the problem is. The problem is the Jews. You know, and when Of course, that's what the problem is, you know. And therefore the Sultan has his power because of that. And then he calls on his troops, the Erev Rav. Esav, the Rosh of Esav is part of his troops. You know what I'm saying? Or Yishmael and so on, you know.
Is the Israeli government still trying to get Frum Jews and the Kollel drafted into the army? Are they still trying to do that?
Yes. Yes. And they're having tremendous problems with Lieberman. Because Lieberman really wants to draft the Jews. See, Erev Rav. What they don't understand, and that's the root of the problem, they do not, or it has not been enshrined into law, they do not understand that Torah learning is a value that must be protected and is as legitimate as any other value, if not more important, than any other value of the government of Israel. They don't recognize that. And therefore, if a guy sits and learns, what are you doing? You warming up the bench? To them, that's all it is. Yeah, they have a recognition that Jewish continuity needs somebody to learn Torah. They do have something like that because the Torah is an ancient document and it has what's preserved the Jews. But they don't realize that learning Torah by Jews is what protects the Jewish people. And as long as they don't understand that, so, you know, and as long as they don't understand that, then, hey, you got to share the burden. You got to go to the army, you know. So that's the real problem, you know. And of course, the next problem is that the whole concept, you know, Ben-Gurion said, you know, that the army is a vehicle, social engineering. You go to the army, you're finished. Yeah. You will become fry. You will become non-religious or severely diminish your religion. And they realize that the army is the greatest way to make everybody non-religious. That's what they want.
People in the army.
What?
There's plenty of from machlakot, and there's also Hester yeshivas that goes.
Yes, but there are. I've seen reports where they say that a lot of this is a charade. It's false. That the kosher food is problematic. There's a lot of stuff in the army that we don't know about that is problematic in the army itself for religious people, you know, and so on, you know. But okay. But that's the problem. They don't recognize learning Torah as a value that is equal to any other value of Israel, of Israeli society. That's why they want to make it as a basic law, because then that determines the legislation about draft. Because once you have the fact that Torah learning is a real value based on basic law, then you just can't destroy it. You can't minimize it. You can't neutralize it. That's what it is. That's the Erev Rav. You see, that's what it is. Could you imagine if they did that with Moshe Rabbeinu in the Midbar? Where they said, hey, you know, who cares if you're learning Torah? You know what I'm saying? That's one thing you see about the Midbar. You know, as long as they were in the desert for 40 years, you couldn't start up. You started up like Korach, you were dead. You were dead and buried, literally, by Korach. You know, it was God would not hesitate to destroy you openly and miraculously in the 40 years in the desert, you know. But once that happened, then of course, you know, people have free will and they can do whatever they want, you know. But could you imagine if somebody's come out and said, well, Torah learning is no big deal, you know, let him join part of the army there, you know, whatever, you know. He would have wiped them out. God would have wiped them out. So you know, think about that, you know. Of course, it doesn't happen because, you know.
They had their troublemakers, Dathan and
of course, they're all destroyed. They're all destroyed. God does not hesitate or play around. You know, he doesn't do that. He says, hey, wipe them out. You know, the Chet Egel, they sinned with the golden calf, right? They all died. All they had to drink, part of that, all died. You imagine? You know, a Jew killing another Jew, but...
You're saying the government thinks they're like in the Kollel, it's like studying Shakespeare's plays or something?
No, they recognize, it's like studying, authentic Jewish history. But there's no spiritual value to it, really. It's a national, you know, cultural value. You know, they recognize there's a value, but there's no spiritual value, and it certainly doesn't give you points in heaven because you learn Torah. I don't believe that. It's the Erev Rav. That's what the Erev Rav is. Anyway, but that's what it is. And they get away with it. Israel is controlled by the Erev Rav. That's what it is. You see, and they are the last real soldiers of the Sultan. When they go, when Netanyahu is overthrown, then you know the Mashiach is right around the corner. And he will be overthrown. Just a matter of time.
All these Arab countries got destroyed. The guy DF didn't lift a finger. What do you think?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That they've been Syria's destroyed, and they didn't even,
Libya, Tunis,
Yeah. God is,
right down the list.
God is
Iraq,
destroying. Yeah, I know, I've said that.
Syria.
Yeah, exactly.
IDF didn't fight any battle.
Yeah, even Iran is being destroyed by the United States. Israel is not doing anything, basically, except in Syria, but in Iran itself, yeah, it's being wiped out. Sure,
Iraq, everything.
Okay, looks like anything else? Hang on, hang in. We're very near the Mashiach, very near. And ultimately what you're going to see is an incredible mahapecha. What's mahapecha in English?
Upheaval.
Upheaval, yeah. That's what's coming up. Something is going to happen when, everything is finished, when God says, okay, the measure is full. I'm now going to change. There have been times in history like that, The fall of the Berlin Wall was an upheaval. The fall of communism, right, was an upheaval, you see, And the election of Trump is an upheaval. Every once in a while, shocking event happens, And
Can you say that he has the protection of God? God forbid if somebody tried to take him out.
who, Trump? Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's protected by God.
Assassination.
Well, that's how he can survive this. How does a guy survive? The house is after him. They want to, it's just, no, because God is protecting him. He's on a divine mission. Yeah, Israel needs him. So you can't touch a guy like that. Yeah, they're all trying.
You got people out there that would actually try to hurt him physically.
I'm sure. Yeah, people that hate him. Of course.
That hasn't happened yet.
No. I'm sure he's protected and so on. But
he has a relation somehow with
the what?
Kurdish. If he has a spiritual relation somehow with Kurdish, you mentioned, how is he not
with who?
Kurdish, who built the base of Mendel.
I never said he had.
Oh, okay, but the mindset he is doing everything for the Yidden.
Yeah.
At some point, he's gonna obviously build a base of Mendel. He's gonna call for the rebuilding of the temple.
No, he won't call for. No, he will not call for that. What he's giving Israel is the right to do what they want, but he's not going to build it for them. That has to come from within Israel. That has to come when the Erev Rav is gone, and whoever's going to transition. After Netanyahu, hopefully there will be a transition, and then Mashiach ben Yosef and so on. They will build the Beis HaMikdash, not Trump. That's not Trump's mission.
You're saying that America is the powerhouse behind Israel.
But not for that. Beis HaMikdash is spiritual. What he's trying to do is allow Israel to rise amongst the nations, as an equal to everybody, and protect them from the UN, from Europe, from the Muslims, from all these people that hate Israel. There's a rise of anti-Semitism all over.
France.
All over, yeah, Yeah, I was going to just mention a couple of words also about Notre Dame, which is interesting. Notre Dame really is a very you're familiar with what happened, obviously, burnt. Yeah, that's a very interesting symbol. First of all, Notre Dame is an icon. It's not just a church. It's one of the greatest churches in the world of Christendom and so on. The fact that burnt down is a very bad simon for Christians. For Christians and so on. That Notre Dame burnt down. The second bad simon for that, bad news about that, is that it burnt down between Good Friday and Easter. Right. That's the week that they really need. That's the holy week, and that's when it burnt down. I mean, a real Christian should be asking himself, what happened? Why did Yeshua allow this to burn down? This is the biggest week that you need that church.
It's not there.
And it's not there. It's more than not there. It is there, burnt. that's worse, you know? So that's the second incredible thing. Third thing, incredible thing about that event was it happened in Yud Nisan. That's the day of the Korban Pesach. You know what I'm saying? That's when all the Jews, Yud Nisan, brought the Korban Pesach, you know, which is a defiance of the gods of Egypt, you know?
But maybe that's
And that,
the church is.
yeah, and that burnt down on that day, you know. And then, of course, there's reference to the fact that they maintain the Talmud. Every Talmud in France
Was burnt in
was
that
burnt.
square.
That's
right
what they say.
outside.
Yeah, and in 1242.
What
was that?
I don't think it was burned down that square specifically.
I know. I'm also in doubt of that, but certainly there's not far. Yeah, but in 1242, I think that was the year. All the Gemaras, all the Talmuds of France, everywhere was
Doesn't
burnt.
matter.
You know.
That icon was burnt in this icon.
And what's interesting is the Moran Rutenberg, he wrote a piyut saying that that they should also burn. It's part of his piyut and so on, you know, that he said, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a very bad sign. To show you that it's a bad sign, the Pope just came out with a law. You saw the law he came out with? That he wants any sexual misconduct reported to the Vatican. You know, you can imagine somebody announcing that from the shul pulpit, right? The Rav gets up and says, "Listen, any sexual misconduct by you guys has to be reported to the Aguda." Imagine what that's what?
We got
you know.
lawyers.
So the fact that he had to come out with a new law just shows how prevalent this is, you know, and so on. So that's a tremendous weakening of the church. And anyway, the church is weakening. In Europe, nobody goes to church. I shouldn't say that. The only ones who go to church are the tourists. To see the magnificent windows, you know what I'm saying, and the architecture. They're the only ones that go. You know, but they say 90% of the churches in Europe are empty. What does that tell you? You know, they're losing.
They're leaving the.
Sure, they're leaving the church because people don't see that either as relevant to their lives or they don't believe it or whatever. So so the burning of the Notre Dame Cathedral is a very bad sign for Christianity. And the fact that it's happening now, you know, is because of the Messianic era. Because that's really what's going to happen. When the Mashiach comes, every church will be converted to a Beis Medrash.
In that church,
Imagine that. You'll be able to look at all the stained windows.
in Notre Dame in the North Portico, they got reliefs of Jews with pointed hats that France made Jews wear.
Yeah. Also, they said that.
Those reliefs are right on that wall.
Yeah,
on
and
the
also
North
right
Portico.
outside, there's the two monuments there. Somebody told me, you know, the two monuments. One of them is I forgot what the symbol was. It was a statue of, I remember, of somebody representing Christianity and its greatness. And the other statue was the Jew in his lowly state.
Yeah.
Dodger and Ecclesiastes.
Something like that, right, yeah. So, and of course, you know, it just shows that, well, there goes the church and so on, you know. But there's no question that it's a bad sign for Christianity. You know, as it is, Christianity is slowly dissolving. You know, people just losing faith in the whole approach. That, by the way, is very dangerous for the Jews. Because there's a lot of Christians that are thinking about Judaism. And the last thing Jews need, right, is 1 billion Christians paying for an aliyah in shul. It's the last thing Jews need. That's the end of your aliyah. They're going to want all the rabbinical positions. They're going to want to be in the Bezdins, right? How can you contend with 1 billion people? You can't. It's very dangerous for the Jew, you know. So, but there's slowly it's being eroded. No question about that. So my interpretation is that this is exactly what happens in the near the Messianic era, where their entire claim to fame is being destroyed. You know, that's why I see Notre Dame and so on. You know. But in any case, this is what's happening. You know, it's symbolic, very symbolic, of where Christianity is really headed and so on. Look, you are looking, in summary, you are looking at the last gasp of the Sultan while he dies. We don't realize that. But the fact that what we are witnessing is almost psychotic, in terms of what's happening in the Congress. It's almost psychotic. We've never seen insanity at that level. So that tells you there's something really going wrong here, And we've never seen such a, and even in Israel, such a cowardice to face an enemy that is killing Jews for years, for decades. And Israel refuses to do anything, because they're all afraid of the world, what the world would say. But right now is the best time because, hey, you have Trump. So what we are really witnessing because of all this bizarreness is the dying energies of the Satan.
I'm not going to sit shiva for him.
No, don't sit
I
shiva,
don't think anybody would.
and so on, then that's really a summary of the whole thing. Even though it's hard to see, but like I said, we were witnessing the end of the Satan, as he slowly backs off and loses his power, The real question is, when does the Erev Rav go? They are the last great impediment to the redemption itself, is the Erev Rav. You see, and when you see them go, that is the greatest messianic phenomenon possible. When you see them go and they're over, and they can no longer obstruct the Torah, learning, Kiddusha, then you know it's over. Then it's just a matter of the Jewish people now have to grow in the way they learn. And I believe that's very, very shortly. So that's something to look forward to. And I believe that everybody sitting around here is going to see the Mashiach. Amen, right? Listen, can't get better news than that.
You say that Erev will disappear. Is it from tshuva that they themselves will do tshuva?
I don't believe that they will do tshuva.
Wipe out.
No, it's a matter of allowing people who are spiritual that they should have ascendancy.
On the Midbar, they went
Look, if
outside
Trump
the
wins,
camp. They weren't part of the camp and the 12 tribes, right? They
Who?
were outside the camp.
Who's they?
The Erev Rav.
The Erev Rav really they started off as Egyptians. One spoke about that, who Moshe Rabbeinu allowed into the Jewish people, and so on,
God said, don't do it.
Well, said a lot of things. But no, what has to happen is that, in Israel anyway, the Erev Rav in Israel, which is basically the government, has to be, in some way ended. It doesn't mean the government has to change. Listen, we don't know what's going to happen to Netanyahu. He's facing an indictment, right? What happens if he's indicted, right? By what's his name, Mendel. What happens if he's indicted? He's under serious indictment, and he knows that. And Mendel seems like he's out to get him. So what happens if that happens? Not only that.
Prime Minister.
What was that?
He could be the first Prime Minister to be removed from office. It's
No,
an
he
impeachment.
Well, as a sitting prime minister, yeah. But what's his name?
He was mayor of Jerusalem.
Omar. Olmert, yeah.
He went to
But he wasn't
jail.
sitting. He went to jail. But so if he's out, somebody else has to take over. That is for spirituality, and I believe that will happen, and then that'll begin to change. You have to realize something. There's a lot of powerful forces in Israel that can make people religious. You have a lot of organizations that are experienced in this. You know what I'm saying? You have Lev Liachim, you have Arachim, Eshet Torah. There's a lot of, even Chabad. If they were given access, I once mentioned this, money, real money, they can hire people and in many ways change Israel. Yeah, without force, just by the strength of their arguments. That's one. Or you can introduce religion into the public schools, secular schools, and a prime minister can do that, It's possible to turn around the Jewish people in Israel. If you don't have opposition to this. The problem is there's enormous opposition because of the Erev Rav, you see. But it's possible there are enough people in Israel who know how to address this problem and ultimately turn around Israel spiritually. They have a good way and so on. Doesn't require that much. Just requires a lot of money, which the government has. It's not as difficult as you think. Sounds difficult, but not really. Because a lot of people in Israel are traditional. They light candles Friday night and this kind of stuff. They're not against. It's the government that impedes the real attempt to make Israel religious. You see, that's really what the enemy is. It's not the people. They just don't know. You see, but it's the government that impedes that ability. And that's the era of Rav. If the government was ever deposed, in whatever way God chooses, and somebody came in to reverse that trend, on the contrary, to aid and abet the attempt of people to make them religious, I think they can make the whole country religious. They just need support and money and so on. It's not as difficult as you think, It's the opposition that is destroying Judaism. It's not because there's no ability to do that. And I believe it's going to happen. God is going to put into power somebody that will not oppose, on the contrary, will contribute in every way possible to allow spirituality and religion to dominate. Now, if you want to do it, fine. If a guy says, look, I don't want it anyway, so fine. Nobody's going to force him, right? But at least it will give the opportunity for people to buy into it. That's all they need, to be exposed to it and buy into it. That's really all they need. Just get these guys out of the way.
And that's the problem.
Well, that's the era of Rav.
Yeah.
But God is in charge of the universe. He will decide at some point in time to get these guys out of here, and to elect other people, and that will happen. That will happen, and you will see. And that's going to come down like a explosion. That's what's going to happen, because they're going to go out like an explosion, the era of Rav, and overnight, it's going to happen. I'll never forget. There was a guy, Ceausescu, in Romania, terrible dictator, and it was in, when was it, 88 or 89, and he was overthrown. Overthrown. The people he was a firing squad. I'm not, but he was overthrown. And I remember I was listening to the radio, and you heard a roar that you couldn't believe. And that was like 1 million people screaming at the top of their lungs with joy for the overthrow of this madman. And I said to myself, that's what's going to happen when the Mashiach comes. Amen. But it won't be 1 million people. It will be millions and millions of people that will rejoice with unbelievable joy when they realize that evil is over once and for all. All those madmen, evil people that dominate the world are gone, and they will just scream with joy. You can see it. People are going to be dancing in the streets, because everybody will realize we have now seen a fundamental shift in mankind that is irreversible and unstoppable. Wow. And that's going to happen in Israel, I'll tell you one thing, it'll happen here when Trump wins 2020. You're going to see people, half the people will be singing Shiva and crying. That's a last year, But I'm telling you, it's going to happen, sooner than later. Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
Good. Sure.